we talk about some gear and then, you know,
Sure.
hop into
I was waiting.
advice.
Wait, gear questions. Gear questions.
Yeah, so like, what are those strings behind? No, I'm joking. What's all that
It's
behind
an unknown brand. It's like you wouldn't know. They're called Ernie Ball. Like, I don't know. Have you heard of her?
I'm not sure. Like, yeah, I think I might have some there. Like, yeah, I didn't know about that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so like I noticed that you. I mean, people know that you are actually with Solar Guitars. So if I may ask, and if it's possible to share, I mean, how did that come about, and then what sort of commitments do you have as an artist with Solar Guitars, or is it just informal and flexible, you know, and then you can do anything you want as an artist? How does it work, and how did it come about?
Right. So yeah, I'm in the Solar artist lineup, right? But probably you've seen me using Musicman Guitars as well,
Yeah.
right?
Saw that in London.
Yeah. Right. So right. So with guitar brands, the first thing that I always want to make sure is that the communication is completely transparent, so that there's always like, you know, I tell people like, hey, what are your expectations? These are mine. Like, how can we make it work, or can we not make it work? Because I'm in a phase where I'm always searching for, and I'm always interested in all sorts of guitars. I'm just like, it's just a passion that we all share, and you know, I'm always curious, and sometimes I'm like, okay, for this job, I would love to have that sound or that guitar, and try to find one or whatever. So Solar Guitars, it's a cool story, because I approached them maybe, was it 2 years ago or something, because I was just basically interested in trying out a Evertune guitar with an Evertune bridge, and they just struck me for being like this super cool design metal machines, you know, really no bullshit. You know, you have your volume knob and your toggle switch, and that's it. And really cool design bodies with the curvings and everything.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to them, and they were like, yeah, sure, we can do something. I was basically just asking them if they can, you know, just like a normal, I mean, it's the wrong word. I wanted to buy one or whatever we could come up with, and then they were like, yeah, sure, would you be interested in working with us? And then so we started this relationship, and it turned out that one of the co-owners of the brand, besides Ola, is actually a Swiss guy.
Okay.
So that was a funny coincidence, and out of that, basically, it ended up in a friendship also with Greg. His name is Greg, and we talk a lot and actually from the beginning, I think he also felt it, and we talked about it, that I'm still in the searching for everything and anything mode, and that I don't think it's or at that time, and maybe still, it's not my time to work with a brand of guitars that is doing something really well. That is the metal guitar thing, right? I think they are. I mean, the design, the sound. They have the Solar Duncan pickups, Duncan design pickups, which are super cool. But we talked about that, and I was like, hey, Greg, I think I'd like to try different stuff, and he was like, hey, sure, you can play whatever you want, and we're always like, okay, and if you should play only Solar guitars, you know, it's really in a very, we have a really good relationship, and so he knows what I'm up to, and he knows that I'm always looking for stuff, and we still, like, we talk, and from time to time, and send us messages like, hi, hey, how's it going? And so, and whenever he's in town, we have a dinner together, and I think the Solar team, they're great guys, and they're doing what they do perfectly fine. You know, it's you can do things much better, I think, designs wise and sound wise, and also for the price range the guitars they offer, you get a lot of
value.
Value, yeah, for what you pay for. And I think for my personal needs, that's the, how can I phrase this right? It's the far end of the metal side I need. I'm basically a bit more a rock, like from the heart, and by nature I'm basically more a bit of a flexible session rock player, I would say, with a strong sense for hard rock and 80s rock tones. And also the whole progressive thing, which comes out in Illumishade, is a big part of me. So that's why mainly these days I play Musicman guitars, because I think they just do exactly that. They are, it's a broad range of guitars. They're obviously, with the Petrucci series, it's a no-brainer for progressive guitar sounds. And also on that side, I reached out to them and I just made it clear, like from pretty much the beginning, like, hey, how does it look like? Because right now I'm very lucky to have a kind of an artist deal, and I always, like, as I was beginning to say, like, I was like, hey guys, how exclusive is this? Because you want to make it right for both parts, right?
Yeah.
Because in the best way you can grow together and you can share that trust, and they were like, hey, thanks for being honest, we really appreciate that. And it turned out to be really cool now, because I can, for both like brands now that I'm involved with working with, it's completely fine, and they're aware that I mean, of course it's obvious because I post pictures, but they got, like, I told them and we talked about this. So, and I think that's really important if you starting to get, endorsements and work with people, because in the end it's the personal relationship that counts, I think. And yeah, that being said, I'm really, like, even now, I mean, I'm super lucky and to have a lot of really kick-ass guitars. And like recently I got a custom finished JP15, and it's crazy. Like, I would have never dreamt of this. Yeah, I call it the Illumishade guitar because sparkles and everything. I would have never dreamt of this because 10 years ago I had, like, I looked at the Musicman, the catalog, and all those, like, those are my favorite players, and I was like, wow, and Lou Cather and all those guys, and now I have a custom made Musicman, and it's completely unreal. So I'm super, I can't myself, call myself very lucky to be in that position now. And still I just know that by nature I'm super curious, and I'm always like, I like to try different guitars, and sometimes I also think if you play, let's say you're more a session guy, then sometimes a P90s Les Paul sound is required. So and if you're going into that direction, I think it's really important that you can be flexible as endorsement wise, that you can do that, and you can stretch out and take another guitar for another job. And who knows, maybe one day I will go like, okay, this is it, or whatever. But yeah. I think it's kind of like the profile of my musical profile is also demanding kind of like a flexible way of working with brands and endorsements, kind of,
And I think like a lot of brands nowadays sort of offer that kind of flexibility to artists, because I think the misconception about endorsements is that people think that artists get free guitars, and that's actually not true. We wish. Yeah. We wish,
actually, to be, right, we wish, but on the other hand, I mean, we are in a fortunate position that we get discounts, we get artist deals, but still to pay for an instrument that is that high quality and that is actually accustomed to your needs, I think it's only fair that we also pay an amount of money for that, because if I look at those instruments, I'm like, yeah, maybe it would feel kind of weird if I wouldn't have paid like a single,
yeah, that's true,
single dime or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, sorry, you were saying, I was interrupting you.
No, it's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because when it comes to endorsement, it's not really about getting free guitars. It's like it's more about really endorsing the guitar, as in like, making like a testimony saying that, it is worth the money, and it's, what certain people are certain people look for certain things, and then that's the guitar for them. And I think in your case, it makes, and when I see the work you do and, your session work, Musicman really makes a lot. I mean, obviously with no disrespect to Solar Guitars at all, because they make brilliant guitars, and I've tried them. Amazing guitars, and they pack a ton of value for their price range.
Yeah.
But in your case, I think the Musicman kind of does the job for you, because it allows you to go to like the extremes of metal, but it also allows you to go the other way as well, and it goes pretty far back, down to folk and stuff like that. It literally covers a wide spectrum, and specifically it's the JP models or even the Majesty models. I think they sort of do that, and I think the John Petrucci guitars are probably one of the best design, because of all the thought that went into the design, the position, that whole arm swing thing, and and like the recent finishes they've been creating for the Majesty just makes you go like, oh yeah, shut up and take my money, the recent Majesty Purple Nebula. When I saw that, I was like, damn.
Yeah, it's not fair. Sometimes life is not fair, right?
I know. But,
right.
Yeah, but Musicmans are like quality and really versatile products. I mean, I have like a really old JP7, which is stealth black, and I love that one because it's one of those rare models where you have the scoop on the body. So like for the earlier models, like the earliest model, which is the JP6. So that's
with that
scoop thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have that. I mean, I don't really use it because I try to float my arm, because I play on a few different ones, and I don't want to rely on just getting used to that. But it just looks cool, to have that there. It's like, yeah, your guitar doesn't have this. You can go tell people,
Right.
But it is really a beautiful and a really versatile instrument that does pretty much everything a rock guitarist or even a heavy metal or even a death metal guitarist needs. So it's just crazy how how versatile it is, and it makes all the sense for you to use it as well.
Right. I do think so as well, especially now for Illumishade. Also, like, I think that's really a guitar that fits with the band. And thinking about what you said about the Petrucci line, and I think a signature guitar is always like, it's so it's such I mean, how to say that correctly? If you think about the artist behind the signature guitar, the signature guitar makes so much sense. If you think about John Petrucci and you see the Majesties and the JPs, you can do everything, but it's the guitar. It remains a very classy, prog, majestic sounding guitar. It's not like a rock and roll beast guitar, and it's not an extreme metal guitar, even though it can cover those tones and can handle the sound. But its nature is more like this focused, very, you know, very precise guitar, and it's interesting. And I have a bit of a history with signature guitars. I don't know. I ended up buying a lot of times falling in love with a signature guitar that was actually, you know, it's kind of like someone else's guitar you're playing, right? Yeah. So the guitar that I probably would say I love the most, because I don't know, it's actually a Nuno. It's the Washburn, you know, that I have to show it to you. And it's got a broken string right now, but you know this one.
Oh wow, and it's really beaten up.
Yeah, it's got some work done on this one, and you know, this is basically what I always played. I think that's, and I don't know, maybe this is just my thing. It was for a long time. It was the Floyd Rose Super Strat thing with a powerful bridge humbucker, and yeah, I mean, this is actually a thing. One of the few things I think that Musicman doesn't do is 8 strings, like Aristides or whatever. And, you know, that kind of Californian style super strat guitar, the rock and roll thing, you know. And I think Musicman, it's always got that kind of noble aura to it. You know what I mean? It's very like, right. Maybe I think that's a way to say it.
Yeah, I get what you mean exactly. Yeah, it's
right.
True. But it's a beautiful guitar, though, you have there.
This one, this is the
old but gold.
Old but gold. Right. And I recently I got the chance to get my hands on a 90s Van Halen Musicman, which is, that guitar is, man, the tone of that guitar, it sings like every note you play. I played a lot of the Illumishade solos actually in that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the red one.
Yeah.
And
the one that we've been seeing.
That one.
Yep. Oh, I heard that one. Like it screams. That guitar literally screams.
It screams like crazy, and you just hit the string and it goes.
Yeah. I know. Nice.
Yeah, Eddie knows best, right?
Yeah, Eddie always knows best.
Or he used to. I don't know.
Well, he did his part in contributing a lot of a good gear for all of us to use. So definitely did his part.
Damn right.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, talking about gear, this guitar has been pretty important for the process of the album, creating the album, especially or exclusively for lead parts. I didn't use it for rhythms, I think, but yeah, for leads, this was I used it on Rise and Golden Lands, and maybe even What Have I Become, or maybe even What Have I Become was the JP12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting to know. Well, nice to see you have like a sweet collection there. Every time we see you, you're like with a different guitar.
Yeah, actually, this is it's a bit like, what's the word? Spoiled. You know, I always admire people and friends of mine that go like, I just had this one guitar and I've been playing it forever.
Exactly.
And I think that's the way I want to have that, but it's I don't know, for some reason it's just not the way I can't kind of. But maybe if I had to, the Washburn would be my desert island. Desert island? That's not a
deserted island.
Deserted.
Deserted island.
Deserted island guitar.
Yeah. Well, we always have that one guitar that we always go to, don't we?
Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, but I guess it's the same for a lot of guitarists. I think after you get a guitar that you so want, after like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you'll be like, okay, what's out there?
It's horrible. It's actually more so if you're or when you're having an endorsement, because you think, come on, dude, be happy with what you get. It's crazy cool. But tell me about your the guitars you endorse. Like, what's the deal with that? I think I never saw them before. Or
Oh yeah, it's pretty new. I like, in fact, it's just there. I'm just gonna grab it here. Just give me a second.
do it.
Yeah. So yeah, like so this is like the GOC guitar. It's a headless. So the funny story about like how I came about like find it, like check out the bridge is so cool.
Wow.
Like yeah, it's just
It looks a lot like Strandberg, right?
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, from a headless point of view, but I think in a lot of cases, they nailed a lot of things right better than Strandberg in terms of value. Bridge is superb, and then what you don't notice, I'm not sure if you can see it, but then like, if you see like this little pegs here, they have like holes there.
Yeah.
That sort of allows you to stick your pick in there and to like twist tuning machines.
Oh,
so
wow.
It makes a lot of sense, and like this is like a multi-scale guitar, which is perfect because you get like the flexible highs and the really tight lows. In fact, I use like an 80 here.
Wow.
So yeah, so long story short, like how I came about this is out of desperation, because like I usually live in London, but then I came back home and then I was stuck here due to like, the lockdowns happening everywhere around the world. And then I was like, shit, I have like one guitar, which is 6-string. In fact, it's the Solar guitar, but it's like the Washburn version before,
Right.
yeah.
I remember.
And then I was like, no, I can't do 6. I gotta do at least 7. And then so the quest began, to search for like a guitar. And then this just popped out of nowhere. And then we talked about, and then what made it attractive for them to kind of offer like a good deal was the fact that I was using a bunch of other guitars, like the Mayonnaise and the Jake Bowen Ibanez, and also my JP. And then they were like, okay, you've got balls, so we're gonna trust you, by offering you a good deal to see how you like it, And then
okay.
And then we didn't even, I mean, we kind of talked about possible endorsement, and then they were like, but then we kind of mutually agreed that, we're not going to endorse each other just by word, that the agreement was to try the guitar out, make sure that you like it. And then obviously when you endorse something, you really want to believe in the equipment and not just say, oh, I endorse this product for the sake of, saying that.
Right.
Yeah. And so when I tried this, I really couldn't believe, what sort of value that, this thing has. I mean, it retails for like, I think £700-ish. So for a headless guitar, that's like cheap. And I barely have to tune this guitar. It's crazy. I don't believe it at all. And yeah, so it's an amazing tool, and all these woods on the neck and the fretboard, it's engineered wood, so it's extremely stable. It doesn't warp, so humidity stays the same regardless of where you're at, and it's just an amazing tool.
Wow.
And like the reason why I got an 8-string is because it just looks so fucking cool to have an 8-string.
Huge neck. It looks, it's like a fighting jet fighter.
Yeah,
jet fighting guitar.
When I first got it, I was like, am I playing the piano or am I playing the guitar?
Wow.
And
oh man, I couldn't handle handle those 8 strings. I think it's crazy.
Well, but it is a handful, especially. That's why I never have like any of the groove gears on my guitar, but for this one I have to, because my palms is not big enough to like.
Right.
It's like when you're down there, like the other parts are loose. It's not like a 6 or 7 where you kind of get. I mean, I have really tiny hands, so. But yeah, when it came to this, I needed the groove gear. But it's an amazing tool.
Cool.
So
what's the name again?
It's GOC. So I think it stands for Guitar One Collective. So I think it started out really funny though, GOC, because it was actually Grumpy Old Cat. It was a brand that the company that they set up to, I think, to make bespoke guitars to support another major brand, and then I think it got bought over or something like that, and then it became Guitar One Collective, and it's made in China, but it's the owner's American. So, but it's I mean, there's room for improvement, but for the price you pay, it's like really crazy. And yeah, so I kind of sold off my Mayonnaise because of this, and then because I'm like, I mean, credits to Mayonnaise, beautiful guitars, amazing instrument, they play so well, but in terms of price, it may be too much of a premium for a lot of people to pay, Mayonnaise. So so I decided to go with this because I thought, it's I believe that everyone should have access to instruments. So it's not just the fact that it's a good instrument, it's also because it's affordable, and that's why I thought endorsing it would be a good idea, because I always believe in access when it comes to music and instruments like that. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm doing interviews like that, because I mean, the point is not about me, but it's also about getting, education out to people, and to also obviously shed light on artists like you, so people get to know you on a personal level, ask questions that general interviews don't ask. So if you notice, this felt more like a chat than like an actual interview. So
Absolutely.
That's yeah.
Absolutely.
So I kind of find, yeah. So it makes it a bit more fun,
It does, and it's a great thing to do. Like, thanks a lot for inviting me, actually.
Oh, and I'm very humbled and thankful that you were happy to spend time with me today.
Sure.
Yeah. So thanks for all that. So last piece, last question. I promise I won't drag it on any further. So there's two ways of answering this. It's either you give out an extremely valuable advice that you've received from someone, or is there something, is there a piece of advice that you would personally give to someone that you think will be, very special for them? So it's either something you received from someone or something that you're giving out yourself.
Okay. Wow, that's a good
You
question.
could do both. You could do both, or you could pick one. It's up to you.
I would. Okay. If I could give any kind of advice to other players or young players or any kind of musicians, or I think whatever you try to play, or whatever you're doing, like from time to time, try to analyze your playing and like pick out the stuff that really is you. Like, what's the parts, or what in your playing is unique, and what's your brand, kind of. Speaking of brands, that's a thing that I think is super valuable. Even if you learn stuff from someone else, try to like learn it, but then go like, okay, how could I make that my version of it? Because I think that's your greatest value, to come up with your own musical vision and kind of like carve it out, refine it, and of course we're doing that also naturally, but I think from time to time it's really good to just kind of like as if you would look in the mirror and look at your facial features and say, yeah, okay, this is really kind of like what makes me, right? Just from but on a musical or a guitar based level, and also try to be open-minded at all times. Always an open mind, and like listen to what's out there and combine that with the first part, you know. And just try to be open and try not to be an asshole, because because that's just that's really part of the equation, you know. I think in the end, I really like, if you want to make a living out of being a guitar player, being it as a live player, a band guitar player, a session player, whatever it is, it's always the whole package, I think. And I think you always have to keep that in mind. And a big part of that package is just in how you behave and how you are with people, you know. That's probably what I would give as an advice. And you know, I was thinking about who told me that my biggest lessons in life, and I wouldn't, or nothing comes to mind that it's like someone said something to me or told me something, but I think it's a lot of stuff that I just got from observing people or being with, like in the presence of people. So it could be, you know, it could be a producer, it could be a bandmate, it could be my idols, you know. I think I've never met them. I don't know Eddie Van Halen personally, and probably never will. But just from observing your idols, or the people that fascinate you in the way they play, or in the whole thing, you know, in the way they are, or the way they react when playing with others, you know. I think those are very valuable lessons, to always try to get the big picture, like always try to analyze someone's playing, but also analyze, like, or maybe just try to be like watch them when they talk in interviews, or how they are, and I think that's always a big part of how they made their way, you know. So if that's some kind of reasonable answer to you.
Yeah, it is like I think reasonable isn't the right word to use. I think that's very valuable advice, and I think you're right about, you know, actually when it comes to not being an asshole, it's a lot of it is, you know, really observing how others are in the presence of other people, and, you know, and also how other people respond to other people. I think that kind of teaches you, you know, what you should be like, and what does an asshole actually look like, you know.
Oh, and sorry to interrupt again. I'm talking way too much, but there's another thing that comes to mind. What time is it in your place?
It's 2 a.m., but it's fine. Like yeah,
okay.
I work late anyway, so like
okay.
So it's fine.
I'm sorry
cool.
for keeping you from going to bed. Okay, but fine. Here's just one thing that I think is really valuable, or at least was very valuable to me, and it still is, because a lot of times I get inspired by so many things. Like, I hear a band and I'm completely sold on it, and as you said, I play that record all over again, and I know which song is after which one, and I want to be a master. I want to become a master of that style. And oftentimes it's a very distinct style of guitar playing. So recently I had it with something that I didn't pay a lot of attention to, like Issues, you know, the band Issues. And then I heard their latest record, and I was like, wow, this is super cool. I want to incorporate that in future, whatever, Illumishade records or something, whatever it is, which would be pretty far out from what we do now. But on one hand, I think this is really, that's the part where, what I was talking about with being open, like try to, you know, grab inspiration and go places. but also sometimes it's a curse to me, or it became a curse. Like I wanted to like dig in too much or master this almost a bit too much, and then the other week it was like that style or that player, and then along the way the part of like that, what's your unique thing, what's your unique selling point, and what's your style, can get lost along the way a bit. So this is also speaking of limitations, you know, like, wow, this player is technically, his alternate picking is like so great, I want to do that, and then you start practicing, and then maybe along the way, like in my case, I realize, wait, first of all, I'm maybe not that disciplined, maybe, and second of all, is this what I really want to do? Is this like part of what I want to show the world? Like if I think about the solo work on the Illumishade record, for me that's maybe for the first time, needless to say, it's like it gives the listener, from my perspective, it gives the listener like the right picture of how I want to sound. This is like, you wanna hear like what Jonas Wolf sounds like, listen to those solos, that's him. Because I think and coming to that conclusion involved a lot of this, or not a lot, but from time to time, like thinking about, okay, is this me? Is this like my style really? Or am I trying to be someone? You know? And this is very personal, because this is how I think I learned a lot on guitar, is by listening to my heroes at the time. And a lot of that happened before YouTube, so I just had my stereo on it. And the good thing about this is, like with the tape, is you come up with your own version of that stuff, because you don't, it's not that you can look at it, you cannot slow it down like really like in a nice way, in a proper way. So you come up with your own little touches here and there, and that makes you. And I oftentimes I found myself like tapping into someone's style and then moving away like naturally from to maybe focus on a different style, a different player, or whatever, a different influence. And organically this thing, like it evolves, and it like that becomes your style, right? It's a mix of all the influences you get along the way, and to really like treasure that part and to refine it. I think that's really an important thing. And also to not, like, if you find something that you really want to dive into, and you actually feel that there's limitations to your playing that you probably, they would take a lot of work to overcome them. Also to say like, okay, this is cool, just take a bit out of that, and because your style is, it's refined enough by now, it's like, take some of it, but don't try to you know, soak it all up and actually be that guitar player. Just take a small little, like, you know, a bit of salt or a bit of pepper here and there, and just season it, like season your own little brew just a bit more, and you're fine where you are now, you know. Because if you start to look at your playing, you'll find a lot of things that you'll realize, oh, that's actually it's just me that does it like that. Because you know it. Sometimes you go like, this is so Eddie, or this is so this is such a Steve Vai way to do. I mean, I'm not saying we're doing it on that level, but the influence is clear. And then sometimes you go like, you play something, you just let your fingers, you know, you're noodling on the couch while watching Netflix or whatever, and you're noodling around, you know, and then suddenly you go like, wait, this is not a sequence that I got from someone, but it's probably an organic mix that I just developed. Like it just so happened that maybe this is a mix between, you know, 3 bands and 2 guitar players. I don't know what, you know, and to really like take that and treasure it, and maybe even, you know, record that stuff. Like, okay, this is my own licks library, whatever, you know, or this is a thing that I always do that I don't see a lot of other players doing. Or I think that's a huge benefit if you kind of like do your own archive of your own playing, you know. I mean, I'm telling you this now, and then of course I'm the last one to really be that disciplined and do it. But I think, you know, just to from time to time think about that and go like, okay, keep that in mind. You're doing this like kind of like organically, and this is really you. This is like a signature thing, you know. And to kind of to cultivate that from time to time. I think that's so basically I said the same thing twice, and it just took me more words.
Yeah, I think, but it does help with, you know, actually breaking down what the process is usually like, and I think it comes down to, you know, back to what you said about being yourself, but also being open to other styles. It may not be something you completely like, or it could be a different style that's not you at all, but then you just pick like the bits and pieces that, you know, or you try to play like someone that's beyond your technical capabilities, and then you end up developing something on your own. And I think, you know, it's fairly, like what you said, it's fairly important to keep your own style. You just do you, but at the same time, you know, don't be too narrow-minded in the sense that I'm only going to do this. You know, I think it's not a healthy way of growing either. And with regard to what you said about tracking riffs, Vidick actually has like a very good system. I'm not sure if you know this, but then he actually tracks all his riffs in like specific tempos, files them. He seems like such an organized person.
Absolutely. I'm so not surprised he's doing this. I'm not surprised because he's that's him. Yeah, I can picture him. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. When he told me, I was like, wow, seriously?
He's one of those guys. Everything, and he planned, and also like with all it really matches my, you know, my experience with him, especially with also with technical stuff. And hey, Vidick, do you have something for that? Or I don't know how to do that. No problem. Here, this. It's so him. And to archive his he's a good example for that. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Like, I mean, it's kind of ironic, is it? Like, people who aren't into metal, they may say, I mean, people always get the wrong impression when it comes to people with like tattoos, dreadlocks, and things like that. And then, but then we are like thinking he's probably more organized than the other 10 guys in suits, you know? It's just hilarious, you know? But it is actually a very good system that he has when it comes to archiving his riffs and reusing them later when he sees fit. Right.
It's a really good and smart thing to do, and I wish I would be that smart, but you know, I'm really on the other end of discipline actually, and I think one of my big benefits that I have out of that is being really flexible and intuitive, you know. But there's cons to that. There's pros, but there's huge cons.
Oh well, there's no perfect system, I guess. Like
never stop learning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the main point here, and also like I from time to time it's even cool to have lessons again. Like during this time when during these strange times, I thought okay, it's a good point for me to reach out to some players that I think do something that I could, you know, learn a lot from or something. And then I had 2 lessons so far during the lockdown, so it was pretty cool.
Oh, you mean you had, as in you gave or you received?
I took lessons.
Oh, really? So, wow.
Yeah. One was with Brandon from the Black Dahlia Murder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I just always loved his, you know, those stacked arpeggios he does, and it's so him, and it's a really good example of what we were talking about. So while I had the lesson, I was like, yeah, okay, this is how he does it. Basically, I can never do it in that tempo and in that style now, but I know how to practice now because he's shown me. But wait, if I just practice that now, then basically I know how to play a Brandon lick, but it's him. it's not me. So, and then you start to refine, like to choose, like, okay, I learned the technique, but at some point I start to come up with my version. That's exactly the thing again, you know, which is kind of like, I think that's an important thing to just keep in mind. And the other lesson was with Wes Hawk.
No.
He's playing for Devin Townsend now at Eluveitie,
Okay.
you know?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and this guy, he completely like fried my brain to the max, because he was like, it was really cool. But you know, he's super crazy good in all the a lot of things he does, or he likes to do, is in melodic minor, you know.
Yeah.
And so he went on all the modes in melodic minor, and I was just like, you know, if you're in a roller coaster, like, I'm still here. You know? But it was really cool, because then you get a ton of new input, and then you can decide for yourself what to do with it. Right.
That's true. And then like it's like you said, you know, you absorb that information, and then you digest it, and then you kind of shit it out your own way.
Exactly. And you know, thinking about the part where I'm kind of more like an intuitive and flexible, but also like undisciplined and in cases lazy player, I think it makes really sense thinking about my, like, where I come from, like guitar wise. You know, when I think about players like Eddie Van Halen or Jeff Beck or Brian May, to a part where, of course, they have a lot of stuff that it's thought out, and they kind of play it the same way every night when they're playing shows. But then again, if you look closely, there's always nuances there that are different, that must have been like a moment of intuition, like, you know. And sometimes I think also when you listen to the, you know, isolated guitar tracks on YouTube, like, you can find them, right? There's so many, like, I wouldn't call them mistakes, but parts where you feel that the take was like on the edge of, oh, I just got it right. You know, it was like in that, maybe some of that was like made up in the moment. And this is really where a lot of my influences come from, and so the whole thing makes total sense, and it kind of comes full circle. So it's also, I think, about embracing the fact that where you come from, and then mixing that again with how to learn new stuff, and maybe just how to fucking record your own ideas so you don't forget. But I have to ask Vidick about his maybe some tips from him could help.
Oh yeah, like it is amazing, and I think it's fairly useful. I mean, his tip, because he does it so in such a specific way. Like, you know, he records his riff in the correct BPM.
Yeah.
And then it's like files and folders of, you know,
oh my god,
of you know, different BPMs, and then it's like, wow.
Wow. Okay, he's crazy. He's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I wonder if Diego is doing that as well. I don't think so.
I'm not sure. Judging by my conversations with Diego, I don't think so. Well, he's more of like a beer guy. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but oh man, that dude is just, it was so cool. I really, like, that tour was so cool, and I miss touring with him, because, you know, it's one of those guys where you feel a connection, and it's just there, and you know, kind of. And it was so, like, the other day we had a guitar hang, and we were also talking about modes and how to get them, and how to connect them with music that's out there, and, you know, and it's really, he's a super cool guy. So yeah, but I don't think he records every riff in the exact same tempo and archives that stuff.
You mean like a Vidick?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe,
I think
actually, maybe he does. Actually, maybe
he does. Like, so when he records a riff, he'll fix. I mean, based on my understanding, he records the riff at a specific tempo and then puts it, let's say 135, for example. He puts that riff in the 135 folder, and then, like, obviously he will have like 120, and like he'll have like different tempos, and then when he's like in search for a riff, like say for example for a song or whatever, he'd be like, okay, let's look at 135, and then he'll like maybe look at the other folders that are close to 135 to see if they work as well. So it's actually it actually makes a lot of sense, because the tempos do help in a sense that you know at least that riff's gonna work within that sort of BPM, rather than you looking through one folder of riffs and not knowing what's the different speeds, etc. So that whole tempo thing makes a lot of sense. So then, yeah, Vidick, that's the pick.
I feel bad now. I'm the only one who doesn't do that, right?
well, to be fair to you, I think Vidick might be the only one who's doing that.
Okay. I have to ask Diego at some point.
I wouldn't be surprised if Diego goes like, "Oh, he does that." Oh, there's such a thing. But yeah, great guy, Diego. Like, I enjoyed the chat I had with him. Learned a lot from him as well. Funny guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, he did. He is. Despite all that corpse paint, he's like a teddy bear underneath that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's nice. Well, anyway, I would like to then conclude, our little fun chat, and we could, if this was any fun to you at all, we could certainly look at doing another episode, because I think we can go on and on and on and on. Maybe when Illumishade has like the second album.
All right.
It'll be a good time. Yeah. All right. So, well, I would like to sincerely thank you for taking the time out. It means a lot, because one thing, it helps keep this series going. The fact that artists like you being willing to spend time with me, shows like the support that you guys give to people who are kind of upcoming. And on top of that, it's also making your thoughts and mentality and advice available to a lot more people. I think that's it's a great thing. Just by agreeing to be here today, you're doing a lot of people a lot of good. So I would really like to thank you personally, and also on behalf of your fans.
Well, thanks a lot for the invitation, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you think so. I had a lot of fun as well. So, well, let's keep in touch, and then I'm sure we'll see each other soon at the next show.
Definitely, that would be cool. Looking forward to it.
Likewise. All right, take care, Jonas. See you.
You take care. See you soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.